Hello everyone! Today we're going to discuss drivers' hours of service and if you, as an independent truck dispatcher, should control it. In our course, we are briefly discussing hours of service. Hours of service outline how many hours driver can drive, what kind of breaks driver has to take, and so on and so on. However, later we are being asked the question, well, how can I, as an independent truck dispatcher, get access to their electronic logs to see how many hours they have left to run any particular load? And while technically, as long as your client is willing to provide it to you, you could get access to the ELD records and see how much hours driver has to drive. In my opinion, you shouldn't, and here is why. The reason you shouldn't control your client's hours of service is following. Your client, as a licensed motor carrier, is liable and responsible for compliance and safety of their operations. You, as an independent truck dispatcher, are not. It is your client who will have to go through DOT audits, and you will not. So there is really no need for you to tell your client how they should or should not run. If you do, you will be taking on certain unnecessary liabilities. For example, if you tell your client, hey, I believe you still have enough hours to run this load to delivery, and then something happens, you might be responsible and you may have to deal with the consequences. So in my opinion, you just should not get involved with this. If your client tells you he doesn't have enough hours, that means he just doesn't have enough hours. And all you have to do is reschedule the load or cancel the load or book a new load, whatever. But you have to go with what your client is telling you that needs to be done. Now, there are two exceptions to this situation. One of them is if you're not only dispatching, but you are actually a motor carrier. If you're dispatching your own trucks, that means you are logically responsible for your own hours of service, and then you can watch them and make the decisions that you find most suitable. But in this case, you're not acting as an independent truck dispatcher, you're acting as a motor carrier. Second situation is when you are working as an employee for the motor carrier. You see, with the large companies, for example, they have dispatchers whose job is to optimize and squeeze every last minute out of each driver's driving time. Okay, they're paid for that, they're trained for that, and they do whatever is within the guidelines of the company they're working for. But then again, they are not independent truck dispatchers. They do not serve their clients. They're employees and they just follow the guidelines of their employer. With that being said, if you do not have access to the hours of operations for your client, how do you plan their loads? Well, in my opinion, it's very simple. All you have to do is pick up the phone, call your client, and ask. If you have the load that picks up at this time and delivers at that time, all you have to do is to ask your client, hey, can you run this load? Do you have enough time? Do you feel comfortable with this load? If they tell you yes, fantastic. They know best. Again, they are responsible for their hours of service and for their safety and compliance. So if they're telling you that they're good, that is fine, and you go ahead and book the load. If they tell you that no, I don't think I can make it, then you again either do not book a load, try to reschedule, or just look for another one, or cancel the one that you already booked if for some reason your client feels he or she cannot make it. To summarize this video, once again, while you can get access to your client's hours of service in certain situations, you probably shouldn't. You should just find out what your client is comfortable with, how many hours they have left, or how many hours they want to run, and go with that, because your ultimate goal is to service your client. And with that being said, we're going to wrap up this video, and I will see you next time.